They thought the cartel wouldn't come here, to coal towns, to farmland, to the quiet corners of Kentucky, Tennessee, and West Virginia. But the cartel doesn't care about maps, it cares about silence. And Appalachia was silent until it wasn't. On August 25, 2025, the DEA and ICE launched a coordinated sweep across 3 states, 12 cities, 51 arrests, 1 message: "We see you." The operation was called Appalachian Sweep. Internally, they called it something else: containment. Because the Sinaloa cartel wasn't just moving drugs, it was building infrastructure: stash houses in Pikeville, drop points in Charleston, cash hubs in Knoxville, and the logistics? Flawless. Encrypted phones, unmarked trucks, shell companies registered to dead men. The cartel had turned the region into a corridor, not just for meth, for fentanyl, for bodies. And the bodies were stacking. Overdose rates in eastern Kentucky had tripled. Narcan was running out. Funeral homes were overwhelmed. The DEA traced the spike to a single shipment: 1 truck, 1 route, 1 name: Los Fantasmas. The Ghosts, a Sinaloa subcell known for silence. No tattoos, no social media, no mistakes, until one of them made one. A burner phone pinged near a school. A surveillance drone caught a license plate. And suddenly, the map lit up. 12 locations, all active. The raid was greenlit. At 3:42 a.m., agents breached the first house in Huntington, West Virginia. Inside, cash, weapons, a ledger, and the ledger changed everything, because it didn't just list shipments, it listed names: local cops, county clerks, 1 state senator. The FBI was pulled in, ICE mobilized, and the sweep expanded. In Knoxville, agents found a tunnel, not under the border, under a church. It led to a warehouse. Inside, crates of fentanyl, stacks of cash, and a server. The server was encrypted, but the metadata wasn't. It showed connections to Mexico City, to Phoenix, to Washington, D.C. The cartel wasn't just moving product. It was moving influence. And the influence ran deep. 1 suspect, arrested in Lexington, was a former DEA informant. Another, caught in Charleston, was a logistics manager for a federal contractor. The system wasn't breached, it was complicit. And the sweep? It wasn't a victory, it was a biopsy. Because what they found wasn't just a network, it was a tumor. And the tumor was growing. The DEA held a press conference, said the arrests were a major blow, said the cartel's reach was deeper than expected, said the operation was ongoing. But behind the podium, agents were panicking, because the ledger listed more names, and some of those names wore badges. The sweep was supposed to be surgical. 12 cities, 51 arrests, 1 coordinated strike. But the cartel didn't flinch. It pivoted. Because the Sinaloa network wasn't built on loyalty. It was built on redundancy. Every arrest triggered a reroute. Every stash house had a backup. Every burner phone had a clone. And every agent was being watched. The DEA started noticing patterns. Surveillance drones were jammed. License plates were spoofed. Facial recognition logs were corrupted. Someone was feeding the cartel intel, not from the streets, from inside the system. 1 ICE agent, assigned to the Knoxville cell, was flagged. His credentials were used to access sealed warrants. His phone pinged near cartel safe houses. His wife's cousin, a known trafficker, he was pulled, but the damage was done. Because the cartel didn't just infiltrate, it studied. They knew the raid schedule, the agent rotations, the surveillance blind spots, and they used that knowledge to vanish. In Charleston, a warehouse was raided, empty, still warm, still humming. Inside, a server, encrypted, still blinking. The metadata showed connections to Mexico City, to Phoenix, to Langley. The FBI was pulled in, and what they found wasn't just a logistics network, it was a simulation. The cartel had built a digital twin of the DEA's operations. Agent names, vehicle routes, surveillance patterns. They weren't just evading the system, they were predicting it. And the predictions were accurate. One agent, Mendoza, was ambushed, not by gunmen, by data. His badge number was posted on a cartel forum. His daughter's school schedule was leaked. His home address was tagged with a red dot. The message, "We know your rhythm, and rhythm is vulnerability." The DEA launched a counterintelligence protocol, encrypted comms, rotating credentials, psychological evaluations. But the cartel had already adapted. They launched a media campaign, not with press releases, with memes. They mocked the raid, mocked the agents, mocked the system, and it worked. In Pikeville, locals protested, not against the cartel, against the DEA. They said the raids were political, said the cartel was feeding families, said the agents were outsiders. The narrative flipped, and the system lost control. Because the cartel didn't need guns, they had stories. And stories are weapons. The FBI brought in behavioral analysts, digital warfare specialists. And what they found was chilling. The cartel had built a feedback loop. Every raid triggered a leak. Every leak triggered a protest. Every protest triggered doubt. And doubt is a virus. The agents started breaking. One resigned. One disappeared. One tried to take his own life. The system wasn't breached. It was bleeding. And the cartel still whispering. Because in Appalachia, the silence isn't peace. It's camouflage. The sweep was over. The arrests were made. The press conferences wrapped. The headlines faded. But the silence that followed wasn't peace. It was recalibration. Because the cartel didn't lose. It learned. The ledger recovered in Huntington had names. But not just dealers, not just runners. It had contractors, inspectors. One name linked to a state procurement office, another tied to a narcotics task force. The system wasn't breached. It was built with holes. And the cartel? It didn't patch them. It mapped them. ICE analysts traced financial flows from shell companies in Guadalajara to a real estate firm in Knoxville. That firm had purchased 6 properties in the last year. All cash, all near interstates, all zoned for agricultural storage. Inside one of them, agents found a server, still warm, still blinking. The data showed something new, not just routes, not just shipments, schedules, of DEA patrols, of ICE rotations, of drone flight paths. The cartel wasn't just reacting, it was forecasting, and the forecast was grim. Because the sweep had triggered something else, a failsafe. Every arrest activated a contingency. Every seized phone triggered a cascade, and the cascade led to one place, a warehouse in Hazard, Kentucky. Unmarked, unlisted, unwatched, until it exploded. No agents were nearby. No arrests were made. But the crater told the story. The cartel had burned the evidence and left a message. Spray-painted on a concrete slab, corridors don't belong to governments, they belong to ghosts. The FBI went silent, ICE pulled back, and the DEA, they started asking questions they weren't supposed to ask. Why were certain names redacted from the ledger? Why was one suspect, caught with 12 kilos of fentanyl, released without charges? Why did a federal judge recuse himself without explanation? The answers didn't come, but the consequences did. One agent, Mendoza, was reassigned. Another, who leaked internal memos, was fired. A third disappeared. And the cartel, still whispering. They launched a new podcast, encrypted, anonymous, called The Corridor. It mocked the sweep, mocked the agents, mocked the system, and it worked. In West Virginia, protests erupted. Not against the cartel, against the agencies. Locals said the raids were political, said the cartel was feeding families, said the government was the real threat. The narrative flipped, and the system lost control. Because the cartel didn't need to win, it just needed the public to stop caring. And they did. The final blow came from inside. A memo, leaked, anonymous, marked for eyes that still see. It detailed a pattern of infiltration, of protection, of complicity. It ended with one line. The corridor was never ours. The agencies shut down the operation. The files were sealed. The agents reassigned. And the cartel? Still operating, still recruiting, still watching. Because in Appalachia, the silence isn't peace. It's ownership. And the corridor? still open.